importantly, how they make you feel. So at Ammunition, we see our job is to seek out these connections people have with things and develop them into really great products and services. So, ultimately, I like to, look at, in a nutshell, what we do is, the design is what defines relationships. It's this interface plane between companies and the outside world, between a person and a technology and a capability, and really it's what shapes it. And you'd be surprised how many companies don't get this, that the design of everything they do really defines that relationship. So with that, I'm gonna get into my observations here. And the first one is kind of a broad motherhood statement, but very important. While the core technologies that make things work really enable amazing functionality and capability, it's almost always the interpretation of those in design that establishes them in people's lives, right? It's always about the thing and what it does, not necessarily the underlying technology that makes it possible. I mean, think of the iPhone in most of your pockets, right? And the number of man years that went in to make that thing work. But what do we obsess about? The new gold iPhone, right? Form, detail, things like that. That's a representation of all that stuff, and it's very important to understand that. This is something I think it's also very important to understand that it's all plumbing and toasters now. And what I mean by that is that the magic, that we all love of being connected and the things that it does, that magic is gone, right? It's like, at some point, having running water in your house was amazing, right? I can't believe I've got water coming in my house out of the wall. I've got this new thing that actually browns bread automatically. It's crazy, right? Again, that's kind of where we are today, and we're getting beyond that, and it's quite important to understand that it's no longer about this magic. It's about actually what it's doing and what it's going to do in our lives. We are in the fashion business. People need to understand this, that today, the things that we carry and use define us almost as much as the clothes that we wear, right? And fashion is a very different thing. It's very tricky. It's hard to understand, but that's where we are. We are in the fashion business, and we need to take that into our work as we create things. This is one of mine. There's this feeling right now that technology is really starting to deprive us. It's starting to change our lives in ways that aren't that good, that we're caught in this little 4-inch diagonal square so much while the world is passing us by. And there's this attention deficit and addiction that's occurring that I think we as designers and developers need to start to understand and address, because it is becoming problematic. I really don't want my reality augmented. Not in this way, thank you. There's something that's very common in our work is that tactility is coming back, right? We've moved so much to be virtual, flat slabs of glass and simulating all kinds of things in that realm. We're kind of longing for knobs and switches and things to twiddle, and it's really starting to show up in our work. We're moving away from this sort of ubiquitous approach to interface and really back to things that you can actually touch and feel. So, most of you that work in mobile stuff know this. If the 1967 film The Graduate was made today, when Mr. McGuire passionately tells Benjamin Braddock to remember one word, plastics, today it would be batteries, right? Every wireless thing we work on, we have this constant battle between battery life versus size, versus cost, versus complexity, heat, all these things, right? And it's growing and growing. And the idea of power and power management, what that means, is becoming such a huge part of everything that's mobile. It's starting to feel like something needs to change, something needs to break here. So, with that as a backdrop, stuff I'd like to see. I'm going to dive right into this. Really smart tools. I like tools, right? I like the idea of simple things that are really optimized to a single purpose. But again, we've gotten away from this. We're sort of in this idea of vestibules that we fill up with functionality to do all kinds of things. But the reality is tools are really great. So we did this project recently with Adobe called Mighty. And what it was is a pen for creative professionals. And really what we were trying to do was create a new capability so that creative professionals could use touch interfaces, primarily the iPad, as a really true effective tool. So we developed this like a tool. It was all about balance, about feel, about precision, right? And we came up with this really cool idea. You remember those, when you were a kid, those triangular rubber things you put on pencils to help you write, actually teach you to grip? Well, that's actually a really great idea for precision. So we created this triangular pen, but we twisted the cross section so the point kind of fell right between your thumb and forefinger, and it just created a really great, really easy to control shape. But what makes it special, as I said, is it is a connected device, but it does in a way that's a little bit different, that it connects via Bluetooth to whatever device you're using. It can move between devices and switch those connections. And it's tied to the Adobe Creative Cloud, where all your libraries and color palettes and photos and everything are. So you begin to use that pen as your methodology to move things from your cloud into whatever you're working on. And when you do it, it has this really amazing feel that you're actually, the pen is now the interaction, the pen is the interface. And it's something that's never been done before. So, and we started playing with this, and Michael Goff at Adobe had this idea. Let's do a digital straight edge. It's called Napoleon because it's short. And, you know, again, it's connected, and you can pull up libraries and menus and so forth. And I originally threw this really skeptical. I thought, this isn't going to work, but we prototyped it, and something really amazing happened. It made me draw better. You know, all of a sudden I had this confidence, and partially because that was how I trained, but having a straight edge to draw lines as opposed to snapping to a grid or something made me really feel like I was drawing again, and really made me feel like this tool all of a sudden becomes very powerful. So we're continuing to explore this, look at all kinds of different tools. We have an idea for a digital moleskin for note-taking, a little tactile interface that allows you to jog shuttle through applications, but they're all context sensitive and connected in some way. So the next thing, again, this is my tape measure. I really love this tape measure, but I thought, why not do a connected tape measure, right? So when I measure it, I like to know what 37.5 inches is, but I tell it what axis it's in, and it dumps that into whatever I'm working, so all of a sudden, I still have my tool that I like, but it's a very effective way to get that information in and out. I know everybody feels this, right? It's amazing how many chargers there are in the world. I think by 2014, there's like 7.3 billion phones in use. Everyone has a charger. We change them every 2 years. It's an incredible, not only use of energy, but use of material, right? So, I was thinking, why not farm your own energy? Now, this is obviously a little tongue-in-cheek, but we did a project recently where we were looking at solar. We developed this little solar tablet to use to charge your phone. But during the process, we began to think about it. Well, this sort of democratization of solar. And why can't it be more application specific? Why can't I use to drive different things and make it architectural and beautiful and modular? And use it in outdoor fashion and be elegant, not like a science project. There's a security camera, a picture that uses a thermocouple to keep things cool. And taking that further, a picnic table that has a lot of area so it can keep things warm and cool. A boombox, an outdoor speaker. I mean, we just kept going and going. This is a stereo we built, which is actually a hybrid and draws power from the grid when it starts to run low. But we began to think this idea, well, there's lots of things out there. There's sound, there's radio waves, there's light, all this energy to be tapped and used to supplement the things that we're creating. I want to see smart appliances that are really smart. So we've been working with Williams-Sonoma, and this is a digital thermometer, romantically named the iTherm. But it's pretty simple. You stick it in, you watch it on your phone, you don't have to stay by the oven, you can hang out in the backyard, you know what's going on, etc. But I started thinking about it. This is a device that really hasn't been touched, other than putting a clock on it, right? Well, what if it was connected and done in a really smart way? So this was our idea. It's a coffee maker. It grinds the beans. It makes your coffee like a lot of these, right? But it has a very simple idea. When I load my beans, I scan the package. It goes out and gets me information about that coffee, and it tells the machine how hot the water should be, what the grind should be, how much pressure should be, and basically to make the perfect cup of coffee, right? And then my alarm clock, when I turn it off, right, it wakes the machine up and makes a cup of coffee. So, these are the types of things I'd really like to see in appliances. Smartwatches, lots of smartwatches. We've seen Pebble, we've seen the Samsung watch, there's stuff coming from Google and Apple. I've done a lot of watches, right? Analog, digital, smartwatch. This is one we did a concept for WIM. This a startup. It's the best thing I loved about it. It's an Android watch, but it was modular, right? So this is basically the movement, and the movement could be put into a lot of bands, and bands made from a variety of people, from Rolex to Bell & Ross or whatever. And so here's an example of what that might look like. But when I started playing with the interface, right, this whole idea of interacting with a 1-inch square on my arm was very different than the at-a-glance idea that a watch was to me. And I like watches. I like mechanical watches. This is my watch. My wife gave it to me. I've got a lot of watches. I don't really want to get rid of it. So I thought of this idea of sort of this smart band. It's like a Nike Fuel Band on steroids. And it has a laser cut micro perf with an OLED screen behind it, and basically gives you notifications. But the really neat thing was, we thought, well, instead of, this touch interface, let's do a gesture interface. So it has sensors that you train with different movements with your hands, so you begin to tell what mode you're in and confirm things of sorts. And it's beautiful. It's leather, it's finely crafted, and it's something I can wear with my watch on the other arm. Basically, here's a quick animation, give you a notification, etc. Comes in different sizes, different colors, different materials. That's what I'd like to see. So finally, and this is more of a commentary than a concept, wearable tech needs to understand fashion. So I'm the chief designer for this company, Beats by Dr. Dre. Since we've launched, become the #1 headphone brand in the world and produced about 20 million products, right? I like to argue we're the most successful wearable technology company in the world. And there are several reasons for this, right? The audio profile, the design, but of course one thing is we understand fashion, right? And understand what it means. And fashion is more than what it looks like. It's about what you aspire to be, which group you belong to, and which tribe you want to belong to, right? This is my partner, Jimmy Aveen. One of my favorite statements Jimmy made to me was, Robert, our marketing strategy is a lot of people owe me a lot of favors. When, I didn't understand what that meant. We were shooting the product on beautiful models. He's like, no, I don't know any of those people, right? So Jimmy would carry the product around, and these are his friends, these are the people he knows, and he would give it to him and photograph it. And pretty soon, this is how you begin to understand the brand. This is the tribe you aspire to be with, right? Now, just the other day, I said, well, let me just try an experiment, and I did a image search on Google Glass, right? And this is what came back. And I'm not dissing on this or dissing on Google, but I think this is a wearable product, and the most sensitive thing you ever do is put something around your face. I think you really need to understand the idea of fashion and what it means, right? So, and of course, Jimmy's pals, again, establishing what the brand means and the groups that people want to belong to. It's more than that. Of course, it's more than this, but it's very important. So, I only got 30 seconds, so back to this, right? What are the devices of tomorrow? They're real tools, right? They're things that do things. They're tactile. I want to feel them. But the technology's in the background, right? I don't want to deal with that. Instead of augmenting reality, I want to enable more reality, better reality. I want them to be self-powered. They have to be fashionable, and they need to work for me. They need to do what I need to do. That's all I have, and right on time. Perfect. Thank you very much.